Hello, my name's Heidi and today I'll be showing you this bird drawing. So I made this image a little bit bigger than the original this time, and I started out by doing a circle for the head for the bird and then kind of a lopsided circle for the body of the bird. And then I fill in some other details, like I put the beak in and putting in the wing now and the tail. And all this stuff I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not doing too much with measurements. I'm not too concerned with the measurements as long as they're relatively accurate to each other. Just because you'll see later, if I need to change where the rectangle is, I can easily do that. And so I'm just putting in that branch, and as long as it's in the right place relative to where the bird is, I think that's okay. So I decided that I had the objects in the image a little bit too low, so I moved that rectangle down a little bit, and then I'm moving the top of the rectangle down a little bit too to make it the right dimensions still. Now I'm going to add some details into the background. So up until about this point in this drawing, I was just using a 5H pencil to sketch out everything. And like in previous drawings, to do this background, I just, on a separate piece of paper, I took my 8B pencil and scribbled on there, and then used the smudging stick to pick up some of that color. And really there isn't too much detail to add to it. I'm just using my smudging stick to make some spaces a little bit darker, and then I'll darken some other spaces in there too, and go in with my eraser to make them just the right tone so that there's something going on in the background. But the main focus is on the bird, so there doesn't need to be too much going on, just a little bit so that it's not a blank background. And now with the lighter parts, you can see I was using the sandpaper to lighten the smudging stick up a little bit, just so that when I used the smudging stick on that lighter portion of the drawing, it wasn't as dark as the bottom part. And now I'm going in with my eraser and lightening up a few spots, just to give it a little bit of variation, and kind of make it look like how the original picture was. Now I'm going in with a 2B pencil and just putting in a little bit of detail into this close-up branch. In the original, it's the closest part of the drawing to you, and so it's a little bit blurry, and I'll use a few different techniques to kind of make it look that way. One of the tricks to making a object look kind of blurry in a picture is you don't want any hard highlights, so all the highlights that I'm putting in are a little bit softer, so I'm using that kneaded eraser so that it doesn't make it too harsh like one of the mechanical erasers or one of the big erasers, the big white eraser would do. And then just using that smudging stick will also help make it a little bit more blurry. So now I'm just penciling in with looks like I'm using a 2H pencil to just map out where those spikes are on the branch. I wanted to do this after I did the background because it would just be difficult to use a smudging stick around all those different spikes, and so I'm putting these in now because it's just a little bit easier to do that way. And again, part of this branch is a little bit blurry too, and so I'll use some similar techniques to make it look that way. And but right now I'm just penciling in with some of I'm actually going between sort of 2B, B, and HB on these parts. The reason for that is if I were to use one of the harder pencils, it wouldn't work as well for the blurry sections. Even though the color would be more accurate, it's much easier to smudge the soft pencils, and so that's why I chose to use some of the lighter B pencils for the parts of the branch that are a little bit blurry. And then I'm just softening some parts up with that eraser. I'm just putting a few details in there. Again, with the blurry sections, it's really a balance between putting some details in so that it doesn't look too flat, but then you don't want to put too many highlights or sharp highlights in, because otherwise it won't give it that blurry or far away effect. And so here, it's going to start out similar with the part of the branch that isn't blurry. The difference is that I'm going to put in a little bit more detail, so I'm going to use a little bit more variation in pencil. I'm still using that smudging stick in some parts and the soft eraser, just because it's a good way to get detail that I'm used to doing. But you'll notice I am using some of the harder erasers, like that skinny mechanical eraser, and then I'm using some hard pencils, as opposed to with the blurry sections I wasn't using too many of the hard pencils. That is because I want some of those sharp details in there so that it looks like it is more in focus than the rest of the branch that is blurry. And now I'm just taking that kneaded eraser and I'm just dabbing it on the part of the branch that's blurry, just to pull some of that, some of the graphite off of the paper to make it look even a little bit more out of focus. And now I'm just adding some detail to the leaves that are in focus on the far left side. So now it's time to start on the bird. I'm starting by doing the legs, making them dark with the 5B pencil. And I like to start there because it's connected to the part that I was working on, and it's also one of the darkest parts of the bird. And I like to start sometimes with the darkest parts so that I can have that wide range between dark and light. And now I'm just putting on some spots where the bird is darker. And I'll go into more detail with some of these areas later, but for now I just wanted to get some of that color in there. Now I'm just putting some highlights on the bird's legs using both the hard eraser and the soft kneaded eraser. You can get some fine spots with the kneaded eraser if you just take a little spot of it and you just kind of squeeze it to make a little points, and that helps to make it a little area where you can use it for the kneaded eraser. Now I'm going in with some of the harder pencils and doing some of the lighter areas and using that smudging stick to soften some of the darker areas. So for the darker parts of the body, I used a 2H pencil, and then for some of the lighter parts I went between a 3H and a 4H. I even put a little bit of 5H in there to give it a little bit more texture. Now for this wing, I didn't like how I did it before, so I'm just going in and I'm leaving some parts with some white on there, like the wing has in the picture, and just carefully using, I had a very sharp 3B pencil that I used to make some really thin lines for where those stripes are. Now I'm just putting a little bit more detail on the eye. It's hard to tell because the eye is so small in the picture, but a little bit of detail can help. Just using that very small hard eraser. And I put some highlights on the highlights and shading on the beak to bring that out a little bit more. And just doing a few touch-ups here and there. So that's going to conclude this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and stay tuned for the next one.